Most people growing tomatoes are making the same 5 mistakes season after season without even realizing it. And it's not their fault. Most of this stuff is counterintuitive. You'd think more fertilizer is always better. You'd think a frostbitten green tomato is a lost cause. You'd think giving your plant more water is always the right call. Turns out none of that is true. Today I'm giving you the 5 highest impact tomato hacks I know, not tips. Not maybe this helps. Real techniques, backed by plant science, that will change how much fruit you get, how good it tastes, and how much of it you actually lose to rot, frost, or bad timing. Stick around to the end because Hack 5 is the one almost nobody talks about, and it might be the single biggest flavor upgrade on this entire list. Let's get into it. Hack 1. Stop fertilizing on autopilot. Here's a mistake I see constantly. People find a fertilizer they like and they just keep using it at the same rate all season long. That's actually one of the worst things you can do for your tomato plant. Let's talk why. Early in a tomato's life, it wants nitrogen. It needs to build leaves. And those leaves aren't just decoration, they're the engine of the entire plant. Every leaf is a little solar panel converting sunlight into the energy that eventually becomes fruit. So a good amount of nitrogen early on is actually exactly what you want. But here's where it goes wrong. Once you start seeing those first yellow flowers open up, the plant has essentially finished building its engine. It's telling you loud and clear, I'm ready to make fruit now. And if you keep dumping high nitrogen fertilizer on it at that point, you're overriding that signal. You're telling the plant to keep building more leaves instead. What happens next is frustrating. You end up with this massive, lush, gorgeous-looking plant, deep green, full of foliage, looks incredibly healthy, and almost no tomatoes on it. All that energy went into leaves instead of fruit. It's like a factory that just keeps expanding the building instead of ever shipping a product. So here's the fix. The moment you see flowering start, switch over to a fertilizer that's higher in phosphorus and potassium and lower in nitrogen. I personally use a product called Tomato Tone. It's a 3-4-6 blend. If you're not familiar with fertilizer numbers, those 3 digits are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in that order. Notice that first number, the nitrogen, is the lowest of the 3. That's exactly what you want at this stage. Make that one switch at the right time and you will see a dramatic difference in how much fruit that plant actually produces. Hack 2. Save a frostbitten harvest with fruit you already own. Now let's say the season's ending and you've got a vine absolutely loaded with hard, green, unripe tomatoes. Maybe there's an early frost coming. Maybe blight hit early and you had to pull the plants. Whatever the reason, a lot of gardeners just assume that fruit is a loss. Green tomatoes, straight to the compost pile. Don't do that. You can ripen almost all of it using something you probably already have in your kitchen, an apple or a banana. Here's the science behind it. Ripe fruit like apples and bananas naturally release a gas called ethylene. Ethylene is a plant hormone and it's the exact signal that triggers ripening. So what you're going to do is take your green tomatoes, place them in a single layer inside a cardboard box and put an apple or a banana right in there with them. Close the box. That ethylene gas builds up inside and it diffuses directly into the tomatoes, kickstarting the ripening process even though they're off the vine. If you've grown tomatoes for more than one season, you already know this problem intimately. Everything ripens at once. Suddenly you've got 40 tomatoes sitting on your kitchen counter. You're giving them away to neighbors who stopped answering the door weeks ago, and half of them are starting to split and rot before you can even use them. The fix for this is actually really simple, and it comes down to one word: maturity dates. Every tomato variety has a days to maturity number. That's roughly how many days from transplant until you start harvesting ripe fruit. Cherry tomatoes tend to be fast, something like 55 to 60 days. Mid-sized varieties, more like 70 days. Big beefsteak type varieties can push past 85 days. Here's the hack. Instead of planting a bunch of tomatoes that all mature at the same time, deliberately choose varieties with staggered maturity dates and plant them all on the exact same day. So picture this. You plant cherry tomatoes, a mid-season variety, and a late-season beefsteak, all on the same afternoon in spring. The cherries start ripening first, around the 2-month mark. A couple of weeks later, your mid-season variety starts coming in. A couple of weeks after that, the late beefsteak joins the party. Same planting day, 3 completely separate harvest windows, spaced out naturally. Now, if you're someone who's locked into just one favorite variety and you don't want to grow anything else, that's fine too. You can get the same staggered effect by staggering your planting instead. Plant a batch, wait 2 to 4 weeks. Plant another batch, wait again, plant a third. You'll get that same trickle of ripe tomatoes over time instead of one giant flood. Either way, the result is the same: a steady, manageable harvest all season long, instead of a mountain of tomatoes you can't use fast enough. Hack 4. Prune to 1 or 2 stems for a bigger, earlier harvest. If you're working with a small garden, raised beds, or containers, this next hack might be the single most useful thing on this list because it's all about getting more out of less space. Most gardeners let their tomato plants grow wild, every single sucker left on the plant, branching out in every direction. That's a totally valid way to garden, but it takes up a lot of room. A sprawling, unpruned tomato plant often needs 2 to 3 feet of space just for itself. Instead, try pruning your plant down to just 1 main leader, or at most 2. That means as new suckers form in the joint between a leaf and the main stem, you pinch them off while they're small, keeping the plant growing as 1 or 2 clean, focused stems instead of a bush. Here's why this matters so much. A pruned plant only needs about 16 to 18 inches of space instead of 2 to 3 feet. That means in the exact same garden bed, you can fit noticeably more plants. If you had room for 3 sprawling tomato plants before, you might now fit 4 or 5 pruned ones in that same footprint. And it's not just about cramming more plants in. Because a pruned plant isn't wasting energy building extra stems and extra foliage, it tends to put more energy directly into the fruit it does have, which often means an earlier harvest and larger fruit on the stems you did keep. The other benefit that people don't talk about enough: more plants in the same space means more varieties. Instead of growing 3 plants of the same tomato, you could grow 5 different varieties, taste test your way through the season, and actually figure out which tomato is genuinely your favorite. All of that from one habit, a pair of pruning snips and 5 minutes a week pinching off suckers. Hack 5. Stress the roots, supercharge the flavor, and now the hack almost nobody's talking about. This one comes straight out of the wine industry and it's called dry farming. If you know anything about high-end winemaking, you've probably heard of dry-farmed vineyards. Winemakers deliberately cut off irrigation to their grapevines. Instead of watering the plant and making its life easy, they force the roots to go searching, digging deep into the soil, hunting for whatever moisture is down there. And the grapes that come from those vines are famous for having incredibly concentrated, intense flavor. You can do the exact same thing with tomatoes. Now, this isn't for every garden. It works best under specific conditions. You want heavy clay soil because clay holds on to moisture far longer than sandy or loamy soil. You want a relatively temperate climate, with a decent amount of rain in late winter to fully saturate that clay before the growing season starts. And you want to plant an early maturing variety as soon as possible in spring, while that stored moisture is still in the ground. From there, instead of watering on a regular schedule, you basically don't water at all. As the plant grows, you hill up more of that clay soil around the base, and the plant is forced to send its roots deep down into the ground to chase the moisture that's already stored there, rather than waiting around for you to water it from above. Here's why you deliberately make life harder for your plant. When a tomato plant has to work for its water, that mild stress actually concentrates sugars and flavor compounds into a smaller amount of fruit. You typically get a smaller tomato, but a noticeably more intense, more complex, richer tasting one. Give a plant everything it wants, whenever it wants it, and you'll get a perfectly fine tomato. Force it to struggle a little and you get an unforgettable one. So that's the list. Feed smarter instead of more. Save your green tomatoes instead of composting them. Stagger your harvest instead of drowning in it. Prune down instead of letting your plants sprawl. And if your soil and climate allow for it, try dry farming for a flavor upgrade you genuinely cannot buy in a grocery store. Let me know in the comments which one of these 5 you're trying first this season. If this helped you out, subscribe for more techniques that actually work, backed by the plant science behind them, not just gardening folklore. I'll see you in the next one. Keep on growing.